With McDelivery, Macca's comes to you contact-free. This weekend, get free delivery on orders $25 or more via the Uber Eats app with promo code MACCASLOVE.
Well, there were fighting words at the start of this series. Legacy just figured it's 3-0, and by that performance, I think you wouldn't want to put it past them. They just came in, they said, look, you can have this, you can have that. 20 minutes comes in, we're going to win now.
And I have to say this as well as we're getting into the second game here. If you haven't looked at Legacy's social medias so far for today, it is fantastic. And the players may not have sold the meme perfectly, but they are selling their ability to play League of Legends in this best of 5 at the very least. They're doing the hard part. Legacy Social's just backing them up through here. And here we go, Skimmy. Second game of the day.
Second game of the day. Now Direwolves will be on the red side, which, in my opinion, actually tends to be their stronger side. It's where the Ornn ban makes more sense. It's where they're able to get more picks to really work out what they're after. And they can always hide that final pick, which they tend to reserve for the likes of Chippies.
Yeah, so red side obviously going to be better for Direwolves. They chose this, by the way. Second game being the second seed means they can choose the side that they are going to be on. So they've said Legacy on red was obviously strong. They have that preference. The thing is, and we're looking at Legacy's draft right now, and this is the place that I think is very interesting to explore, is they've changed one ban total. And that was that they added a Corki and they picked the Jarvan. So they very clearly have a plan. And game 1 draft, they knew that their opponents played the Aphelios. They went for the Misfortune Bard comfortably and confidently into it. So Legacy very clearly still have their plans. Direwolves, we've known their plan for weeks now. And this is, once again, that iteration on it, that next step on it. We've seen what Legacy can do. Now we have to try and match that. So they pick the Bard for themselves here, Skimmy.
Yeah, they get the Bard. Obviously, we talked about it in game number 1, how both the likes of Isles and Cupcake incredibly proficient on it, and it was a big deciding factor in what allowed them to negate a lot of the pressure that Dire were also able to put on that map. We talked about the jungle matchup as well, how they have such a similar champion pool with the likes of Jarvan and Trundle, and then the default picks right between Misfortune and Aphelios. I don't think we're going to see too much of a target towards those ADCs, apart from maybe the Kalista being a staple, just so we don't get the cheese between Nat and a Taric. But what's interesting for me is we are going to see the Rumble come out. Now, we've seen Isles play this before as a support to great effect as well. Obviously, still a very stable champion that can be flexed in 3 lanes.
Yeah, 100%. You took the words out of my mouth with that one. It's something that could actually be played in the support role here, so it is something we'll have to continue to watch. But, of course, you can still see the support bans. Now, if you ever go for a Bard third pick in any draft, usually these are the bans that have to follow. There is a risk, and it's worth pointing out that Blitzcrank could just be picked in anyway. But for what it's worth, Nautilus and Thresh are the 2 staples that you must take away. Now we're looking at Dials with their 4th pick here, and it is the Cassiopeia. Once again, very low mobility mid laner for Shock. It's his staple. Orianna was his most played through all of the playoffs so far, and we saw what kind of punish exists from Legacy with that mid-game pick composition, and this one's no exception so far.
Absolutely not, and this is keeping to their tradition of always leaving Chippies to the very last spot to get him pretty much whatever he needs to win that 1v1 matchup. They have taken away the Vladimir, which we found so much effect on. He's gone for the Jace. Now this is an interesting pick because they actually denied it so many times against Tien in the Chiefs best of 5. So the fact that he's flexing it out here saves it to the final pick. I'm terribly excited.
Yeah, he knows his matchup. He's gone for a ranged champion. Jace into Gangplank. You want to call it a skill matchup, but really every Gangplank lane is. It's about how you deal with the kegs, and that basically results in how you'll go in the lane itself. But you would say Jace has a lot more priority and a lot more control in that 1v1. That was Chippy's choice. Jace is a champion that he has played many times in the past, and we're seeing more and more of this internationally as a hallmark pick to go into the top lane. It just has such good lane control, such good lane priority, and groups up with the team for mid-game fighting very well with that lethality build. And right now, lethality, there's an extra item that gives it. It gives better lane control because of the vision that comes from some of those items now as well, and it spikes faster. So really, I mean, that's what Direwolves have looked at here as their picks overall. They've got Cass for scaling, they've got the Jace and the Trundle to bridge that way to it as well. The hard part is how do they actually team fight if they ever fall behind. So once again, you expect to and you want to see them get ahead early.
And you want to see him obviously find that lane kingdom that we know Chippy's so well for. The oppressive poke that can really punish you for just picking up a single CS. But what's interesting is it will be Tally playing the Rumble. So obviously the innate strategy between mid-jungle, Cataclysm, Equalizer, we've seen it countless times. You don't need any further reminder. But now the Karma pick from Isles. Plenty of mobility to patch up that gap, to disengage from what Direwolves are going to be wanting to do for a second time, which is run face first at you.
Yeah, helps keep the Misfortune alive. Helps keep everybody alive, obviously, when it comes to the team fights itself. Actually gives a lot of good lane priority, though. So when you talk about the Bard pick from Direwolves, the bans that followed it, the subsequent Nautilus and Thresh being taken away, one thing worth pointing out is the other way to play against the Bard is to just push it in. You cannot play and leave your lane if you're constantly stuck under your turret, and that is one way that a Misfortune and a Karma could execute in their 2v2. And while we were looking at mid lane, as we are seeing a level 1 potentially on your screen, Tally going for that Predator Rumble, obviously wants to leave his lane as much as he possibly can. And the difference between, say, a Jarvan Ori and a Jarvan Rumble is that the Rumble can engage. You know, the Rumble can be an instigator of a lot more action, where usually it was an Orianna in mid lane who combos with that Jarvan. So a lot easier to execute, potentially, from Tally's point of view.
Be interesting to see how he does decide to play this one, given that, yeah, as you say, he has gone for the Predator to continue this enabling style of gameplay, allowing his laners to get online. But let's kick it off. It is game 2 of the grand finals here for Split 1 of the OPL this year. It is already shaping up to be an absolute banger. Legacy closing out the very first game in 30 minutes, and decisively so. I think they only died, what, 3 times? It was very low numbers. Very strong start from them.
Yeah, it became super one-sided in the end. We're seeing these jungle starts here. Both junglers on the exact same side of the map. It's a red buff start for Babip, but he isn't showing where he is. Legacy is going to start in lane in all 3 lanes. So Babip may have a little bit of a slower clear, but a bit less information given to Direwolves means he is more threatening, more dangerous potentially to get onto the map. And I mean, that's what a Jarvan wants to be doing, pretty much at any possible moment.
Already just bullying out Vital. Going up towards him, finding Pro in the lane just to say, look, you have to go back. We're going to poke you. We're going to do damage. We're going to carry on where we left from game number 1. But I really want to see Shock turn up here. You know, you're going to get both your champions, both your go-to staple champions. We want to see something happen a little bit more than just a cheeky pick on the flip side of a departing Bard.
Yeah, for sure. We need to see more from Shock. It was mentioned by the couch as well. You know, we really do need to see more from him if they want to win this series. Chippy's going to try and be aggressive here at level 2, but an even trade, and Mir is actually top lane.
He is indeed. He's going to lay down the damage. Full set of Flash. Flashes forward as well to get the chomp down. Chippy's just looking for that final explosion with the pulse. Will not be able to find it, but will force Tapoon to go for a reset.
And you take that Flash trade any day of the week if you're Mir. You get rid of the Flash from the gangplank. You watch him try and execute that 1v1 in top lane where they have no knowledge of where Mir is, and suddenly it's a winning trade. Of course, the risk is that gangplank could find... that Jarvan could find you. But Tapoon now needs to be much more careful. Even goes for the cloth armor on that first base. Babip now going to be active though.
Well, Mir went for that gank attempt without red buff, so falling a little bit behind. That's giving Babip vital information just to go in, look for him, land the combo, and with the priority that Tally's found, he's able to freely assist. Flashes forward, the Flame Spitter comes online, Triumph proc heals him. First blood for Legacy.
And you'd think maybe Mir could get away from that one. Tally having the mid lane priority, or first move most importantly of that middle lane, clearly becomes the difference. Shock not going to be able to assist whatsoever. And suddenly Legacy's mid laner, that Predator Rumble, is on the board and is empowered.
It's online, and now it's going to have protection because the scuttle is achieved as a result. And it really undoes...
double scuttle too.
Yeah, it really undoes a lot of what Mir created in that aggression topside.
Yeah, I mean, now you've also got priority from Legacy and bot lane. That should be something that their draft achieves anyway. So double scuttle crab start here for Babip. Priority going to be achieved in bottom lane if he wants to pressure that as well. Legacy start this game off incredibly strongly in Direwolves. I mean, the early faltering from Mir is not something that is rare. It is something that we have seen before, and usually that's a major part of why Direwolves lose games.
We have definitely seen from time to time him go a little bit vacant in some of these games. As you say, can be a big deciding factor especially given how Babip also caters to that enabling style of gameplay, allowing his team to go online. I mean, talk about his Trundle last game, right? He goes for the Knight's Vow. He is willing to say, I have these incredible laners, give them the power, and they will do the damage.
And Trundle is one of the best ganking champions if you can do it properly and you can gank at the correct times. And that was exactly what he was able to do last game. Babip very active across the board, making plays happen. Mir, he did have that first gank, but the punish was there. The punish was there just from lane priority alone. You know, mid lane, bot lane, having that really does enable Babip to be much more aggressive. The difference that makes when it starts to add up is very significant. And now you're looking at a level 6 Rumble with Predator and Boots 2 rushed because of the gold he got from the kill as Jace is teleporting.
He is. Mir's showing his face again, wanting to bully out the fact that Tapoon has no flash. That's going to be a lot of damage. They are going to guarantee this kill because he gets swung back into the brush. They were juking and jiving there for the final hit, but Chippies will get himself on the score sheet.
Yeah, and that's big here from Direwolves. The repeat offense into top lane, trying to keep Tapoon down. Now he doesn't have the TP. He doesn't have any means to defend that top lane turret being level 5 as well. Big advantage at the very least will grow in top lane. A win condition starts to really rear its head.
He will return to that lane now with completed Ninja Tabbies, but the root connects here from Alz's Karma. They look to exert a lot of pressure in. Exhaust goes out. The Graviton route to follow. Full defensive from Direwolves here, and that's going to be the response by Babip to say, we pick up Drake.
I think Exhaust being used there by Cupcake Guardian just coming back off cooldown at the very last moment. So the dive would have been pretty risky, but at the end of the day, the objective is what they are after. Uncontested once again. But this time the shoe's on the other foot here, Skimmy. It's the Drakes and the objectives going Legacy's way. And we are 6 minutes, 30 seconds into this game. And they can flip the map up to topside for Herald as well.
Be interesting to see how they decide to use it, and especially how Tally likes to play on this Rumble. Doesn't have teleport, has heal, will be incredibly strong in these matchups, but that is the advantage that Shock will have. He will have that ability to freely rotate and try and add to this pressure that we've now been seeing come across from both jungle and top on the Direwolves.
And I'm curious right now, looking at Chippy's, what his item build will be. And my question is pertaining towards, will that be an Edge of Night building out of that pickaxe rush, or will he actually go for the Manamune? You would imagine the fact that he has gone for 2 longswords afterwards, that it will just be an Edge of Night rush. So not actually getting cooldown reduction as Mir in trouble.
Junglers will meet, and the rotate will come quicker from Legacy once again. Blast Cone will disengage both safely out of harm's way, but the threat continues to be present as this bottom side of the map is all lit up by Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, Mir's lucky that he gets the Scuttle Crab. That much is for certain. Of course, the punish was definitely there, and any moment that he sees the opportunity to, he is punishing Babip. Tapoon.
Tapoon takes a lot of damage, but the potions come online. The Cannon Barrage to force out a disengage here from Chippies. Both very fragile health bars, and Mir is pathing topside, but Babip is just going for a reset and may look to try and do the exact same himself.
Yeah, Chippy's being very respectful. May just use the Q to try and clear ways. He'll at least get the minions pushed in, which is very important. Of course, Tapoon going for the Ninja Tabi, not going to be doing high damage. Not going for a Sheen at all just yet. Choosing to stay alive, and he understands that the way this game is going to be played out is he is the weak side member of the team, and that's perfectly fine. You know, Misfortune gets a small advantage. They start to potentially break some plates now. Rumble, even though he's 10 CS down, has constant threat in side lanes. Vital
has to be very careful here. He actually flashes out of the Scythe Dagger heal. Oh, the damage would have been good if the bullet had only bounced across. It's going to force out a flash and a heal from Vital, and he was the one in the driving seat to try and be aggressive.
I feel like Raze just instinctively flashed that Aphelios ultimate. I wonder if the kill threat was really there. If he just turned around and pressed R himself, would they not have had the flash forwards to secure that kill? Nevertheless, the flashes will just be traded alongside those ultimates. A turret plate here will drop if that cannon decides to wake up. If it wants to hit the turret. And they'll just get a reset off it. You know, the advantage still growing in bot lane, regardless of that trade.
Mechanics were flexed, but there was one main victor of that one. You can see it there with Raze now finding himself a nice CS advantage. Vital may be able to pick up a fair chunk underneath this tower, as you can see him on your minimap right now. But that is Cupcake's ticket to try and even the odds. Ooh. Shows face mid. And Tally now has to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, the quick how you go on there. Of course, it is Boots of Swiftness. There's a lot of slows on Legacy's composition. So I like that choice. Boots of mobility, of course, being 100 extra gold. Why waste the money if you need the slow reduction that Swiftness provides? Still really waiting for that first big moment, Skimmy. Of course, with a Herald up and with Ocean Drake in 1 minute and 30 seconds, things will start to build quickly.
Yeah, the Herald has definitely gone down in terms of priority here. Cupcake goes for the ultimate, doesn't connect with any members, but it does connect with the turret. This buys enough time now for Bevitt to respond. We may see our first glimpse at that little skirmish with 3 members present on either side.
We've seen a few times now what Dials are capable of when they are on the back foot, but this is again starting to become one of those games where Legacy just build a lead. And you're expecting, you're hoping that something will give to go the Dials' way. I mean, I'm saying this with a 200 gold difference, so for what it's worth, it's not a game-changing advantage right now, but you can feel it, with map control and with priority and with Dials forcing these opportunities. If they are much more patient, then maybe things go right. Speaking of patience, Mir's been here for 7 years.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He really wants to bully out the fact that Raze has no flash. The damage comes out. It's just not going to be enough. Cannon Barrage doing a great job to try and turn things around. Isles picks it up. He turns it around. The equalizer is there. Babbitt flashes forward. He cataclysms. But they jump through the magical journey and their heart stops because it is frozen in place.
Yeah, Mir gets into the journey. Actually, very unfortunate timing there from Babbitt. Using the Jarvan ultimate through a magical journey could actually pull him out of it. So he flashes through the ultimate into the portal and will get to safety. Mir playing that as perfectly as possible. Tally was also down there in bottom lane, so keep that in mind. While the CS lead is growing just a little bit in mid lane, starts to stretch, it is still Tally being around the map first. It is still Legacy getting to these objectives first. And it was Dials that started that trade. Keep that in mind.
So frustrating for Mir, the fact that he was able to sit down for such a long time to try and force it, unable to find that kill. Babbitt being so active across all other aspects of the map, then comes down, turns it on its head, and Isles of all people just chucks Vital a quick "how are you going?" and don't ever try that again.
Big Drake stole this game as well, Skimmy. I'm going to go for the Infernal Soul. Definitely important for both teams. Bard ult in mid.
Cupcake showing phases of his aggression in mid lane again. Tally can just walk away from that one. He just does not care. The boys are back in town. They rock up to the occasion as well. Disengage attempt. Shock just had little to no mana.
They got the heal out of Tally. It looked like they didn't do too much damage. There was a heal chucked in there as well to keep him healthy. He will be able to stay around in mid lane, of course, to clear another wave. If he wants to reset afterwards, he could. Cupcake just trying to be active, Don't pick Bard if you're not going to try and be active around the map at all. Just doing what his champion's designed to do. But still, Isles always in the right place at the right time, He was mid lane to negate that if they were looking to be super aggressive after the ultimate. He's always actually... And I don't know if it's Isles communicating himself around the map, but so far he has been almost perfectly placed positionally, even in that first game.
He's definitely showing no signs of nerves, that is for sure. And once again, you have to take your hat off to people that come into the situation. As somebody that is new, I've spoken too soon, Rusty. He's in trouble.
Talking.
Don't ever speak again, is what I've learned from that one. They're going to go for another attempt in the bot lane right here. Cataclysm lands, Equalizer follows, damage is going to connect. A double kill is picked up by a Direwolf. They've tried so many times, and this time, they are rewarded.
Bro, straight up, last game, I was like, yeah, Topu going to have control of top lane, the 1v1, instantly dies to chippies. What do you think happens in the second game? I'm just going to never compliment positioning or say that someone can't lose from this spot, because you never know when it comes to competitive League of Legends. Direwolves off the back of that pick, though. Whether it should have happened or not doesn't matter. They now put themselves 2,000 gold ahead. They break it at 13 minutes and 55 seconds, so there is no trade on the other side of the map for turret plates. They actually stretch a big lead out of nowhere.
And they had been looking for that for such a long time. Their frustration alleviated. The gold lead now swinging in their favor. And now we just start to look at Shock. The fact that he's been able to find himself a huge CS lead, able to now get himself on a major item advantage. How he can use this when that Petrifying Gaze subsequently comes online to be used as well.
For sure. We're expecting to see some pretty aggressive map flips now towards the Herald with the second Drake of the game gone. This Herald You know, with turret plates being gone, it does mean that they'll get less gold, but it's also much more powerful for breaking a turret outright. So, Isles already being active around the map. You've seen the flip from Cupcake now hovering around mid lane with Vital top, and Misfortune was just greeting for that extra wave in bot lane, which is fine, because there's obviously no punish. Will now be up top lane as well. So Australian lanes are in effect here in the OPL.
Down under. I like that. It's clever.
It's upside down, actually. Australia is upside down. I don't know if you know that.
I actually don't. I come from New Zealand.
Yeah, so you have to do a flip to get into the country and land. Mm-hmm. It's a well-known fact through Americans.
Today I learned. Let's see what happens here. We're going to see some aggression from Direwolves in the river. They're the ones that want to once again claim the rights of the controlling kings. Cataclysm gets flashed out of by one. Tempered Fate seals the deal on 3 members as Exhaust gets deployed onto the jungler. He is deleted. Damage rains from above. And that's a good stopwatch to ensure that he didn't fall victim to the sniper cannon. Babip will stay healthy, has the fruit too, and can disengage for his life's content.
That was absurd range coming out of that Aphelios, but at the end of the day, he's not going to get the kills. Of course, it was a stopwatch burned by Babip, but he's on the way to the Gargoyle Stone Plate regardless, so won't be too upset about using that one at a good opportunity. And we'll be fine running around the map afterwards. Now, we've seen a small skirmish happen around the Herald itself. No focus once again going towards it. Everyone hunting for picks. Shock was the one who was caught. He does survive, but that is the catalyst for a lot of the forthcoming fights afterwards, and I would not be surprised to see that style of gameplay continue for quite some time. You know, getting those picks was something that Legacy have shown last game was proven to work against the Direwolves with the low mobility in their composition. That's still true in this game. But Drake number 3 is up and everyone converges now.
Now some good power spikes that happened in and amongst her. Archangel's actually evolving into Seraphs. Shock gonna have a bit of protection now, and he'll need it because he has no flash. Leandris is there to complement the Rumble. Bullet time just immediately evaporated because the Trundle Pillar just went on up. He has no money. He has to disengage. The Direwolves get themselves the first Drake. And they're the ones leading the charge.
Oh, this could actually be a fight. Direwolves need to be really careful.
Vital, where is he? He is completely separated from the team. Goes for the journey. Just gets deleted. The Flame Spitter doing the damage. Direwolves in the driving seat. Punished for mispositioning. And they chase on forward for more. The gaze comes out. The shield comes on. And the death, it looks inevitable. He is burning through every resource he has, looking for any protection from his team members. Chippies, he's huge, but he can only find one, and he will fall on down. Raze gets himself a double kill. He's going to get himself a triple, and he's back in with the red buff online.
The emote comes up from Raze there just before the red buff secures that 3rd kill. And Legacy, it is a 2-for-3 trade, but the major difference is in the AD carry role in this series. I don't know why Vital was in literal Narnia. I do not know how he ended up in that position, but the rest of the team was converging for the fight, and he was not prepared. Legacy instantly turned onto him. The punish was there, and we'll get to see the rest of this fight after he dies one more time. Shock does hit the stun, but Tally was fully prepared to tank that one so that he was still facing forwards. Now, of course, Mir gets over the wall, flashes back into the fight, and then tries to take the journey out to go for those kills. Chippies goes for the big play. You know, just to try and maybe get all of them down at the last moment. I think that is a Dark Passage logo there as well. But at the end of the day, man, that fight happened without Vital there.
And pretty much every summoner was used. No flashes exist as a result of that one. Babips has just actually come back online, but he wasn't too phased because obviously he has the combo built into his kit. That just shows how decisive that team fight was.
It was super massive. There you go. It was a Dark Passage. I knew it was a Turkish team. I couldn't work out which one it was from the small little logo. Shade being thrown by Raze nonetheless.
Well, the fight takes place in the bottom lane again. Chippies is going to be the recipient of that one, and Tally just continues to be literally a predator. Here, there, and everywhere.
That's what you get with the Rumble running that Predator rune, of course. Channeling his inner doing beat in Worlds Finals of last year. Definitely putting in a good showing here, Tally, through this best of 5 series. We'll see what happens in mid lane. Raze is tanking the turret, and he just gets flashed on by Vital. And unfortunately, of course, we'll go down for that one. So the punish goes there on the opposite side. Not too sure, again, why both of those things have happened. Vital being caught in the fight prior and Ray's tank and turret. Bit odd.
A little bit odd. A little bit odd indeed. ADC's having their fun. Maybe in the worst time for that to ever be a possibility. Regardless, Raze will still be the one in a very comfortable situation right now. He's got a full BF sword over his lane partner in Vital. So he's feeling very strong when those fights are to take place. No need to, because they have a Rift Herald that they have already used. Well, actually, no, sorry. Mir is the one who actually has it in his pocket, so they'll be looking to use it, and they're the ones now that have that bard, so they will be able to find a lot more value this time around.
Yeah, so those item spikes actually going to be a very big thing that we start to look for. It's not just a BF sword in advantage for Raze, it's when that second item is actually completed, it becomes incredibly significant. If he's going for the Infinity Edge, and that bullet time damage increase is ridiculous. But the same thing can be said for Toppin, you know, finish that second item, and his base damage becomes incredibly high, and his team fighting prowess will increase as well if that is the Sterix gauge. And the Jarvan, you know, that's the big one for me for Legacy. If Babip finishes that Gargoyle Stone Plate before a fight happens, his ability to tank in the front line will be huge. Now, on the other side of the coin here, it is 2 items done for Vital. So he is actually very strong right now. And I can't tell you the rest of the items because they got off my screen as we're looking to fight.
Temper Fate will not land. Raze with double buff, incredibly nimble, working his way, working his magic with the passive. Now, you can see that Legacy are wanting to force this because there are no flashes. Cataclysm, Equalizer, it would find so much value. They had to walk through the Valley of Death with double fires just falling from the sky. They survive, and 30 seconds on his next fire Drake.
That Ocean Dragon is going to trickle some health back towards Legacy, but it's not going to be enough for 30 seconds being the next fight. This is a potential for Infernal Drake soul game here for Direwolves if they're able to secure this one as well. They have mega control watered that bush. It has so much control right now. The Drake is up. The contest from Legacy, if we're looking at what it really could be, nothing significant right now. Unless Cupcake gets caught and dies, it may just die too quickly.
Boone is definitely packing a punch right now, but you've only got Cataclysm. You can layer that with the bullet time, but the damage is just too good before they can even show face. They now sit themselves on 2 Drakes equal. Legacy will now turn their attention towards the mid lane. Maybe just rotate towards the Baron as the ping gets flared in that direction.
Yeah, they're looking to get red side vision control. Knowing the Direwolves are fresh off a reset, they'll be walking into this side of the map, so if they wanted to go for a pick, they could. They have mid priority, but they haven't cleared the pit itself. A ward just goes in there from Isles now. I believe that is a control ward as well. So at the end of the day, they'll get control, but Dials still have freedom to move. And they're still hunting for these picks, right? There is a Herald available. Bard is on their team this time. A pillar into a Bard ultimate, and suddenly a play could happen. But Topu very actively taking the health off his opponents.
That he is. Waiting for that cannon barrage, but the Equalizer is back, and note the position of the mid lane with the jungle. Cataclysm comes out, the flash is not enough. He cannot jump into that magical journey. He sees magic, and that is his life being deleted.
Yeah, and it's just the 1-for-0 trade, but it's the jungler gone. If you ever wanted to go to the Baron, now is the perfect time to do that. Legacy, they will hit this immediately. Now, Babip is low, and they know that because they just used the blue trinket into the pit. Chippies has poke. Cassiopeia, while he doesn't have flash, if they come towards him, can team fight, and Bard could ult at any moment.
Chippies has to find value with this one, and that is not it. Stopwatch is used very early there by Race to make sure that he was healthy, strong, fit to fight. The Baron goes down. Direwolves unable to execute. Unable to bully him away from this one. And now Vital once again flanking as if he's a bruiser. He gets deleted for the second time in the wrong side of the neighborhoods. And we're just seeing Isles 1v1 a solo laner. He just baits them all in. Telly comes in, he's going to look to pick that kill up with the harpoon, gets a double kill to his name. They have the Baron, and they do the job.
And it was a 1-for-0 trade in mid lane. Legacy go to the Baron. Now it's basically an ace with a Baron buff as well. Just the complete capitulation of the Direwolves roster in this second game. Legacy without hesitation punished to the absolute maximum. But I am still left scratching my head at some of the positioning happening through these team fights. Legacy punished well, yes. But, I mean, it's catching a good throw.
I don't know if he's trying to overcompensate to get himself back into this game, but let's take a quick stock check of how this fight really
Just watch Vital. Like, Vital cops a keg, right? You're half health. Just disengage at this point. I don't think you actually get to punish here. He just decides to heal forwards and instantly die. I'm lost for words. The rest of the fight, I mean, they're at a numbers disadvantage. And it's easy for the rest of Legacy to clean up. But, I mean, come on, man. You don't need to give them 5 kills with the Baron buff, is what I'm trying to say. That's a team decision.
Well, it looks pretty disastrous right now. 6-1-3 is Raze. 50 CS above, and that will net himself a healthy 3,000 gold lead. A major, major item, as if he needed any more power.
And once again, Legacy will bring this one back where Direwolf still had moments. You know, they were 2,000 gold ahead. They used a Herald. They broke bot lane turret. Direwolf still hunting for picks themselves, but with the composition that they've got, being this behind now, makes life hard.
And that's what we see. He has that much items, that much gold, that much damage. Yep. He can just face check bushes and say, why are you there once again? Now you can't defend this. Mid inhib is open.
And now it's a 6k gold difference going Legacy's way with a definite inhibitor to fall. The pressure continuing. They want Cupcake.
So Boon's just going to flash on forward. He drops the Tempered Fate. He gets exhausted. That cancels one another out. The Flame Spitter is there, lighting him up like a good summer barbecue, tanking the tower like an absolute king. A shutdown is achieved. And that's a big one for Shock. But they're going to face so much pressure with the base going down.
Yeah, Toppin trying to stop recalls actually so that Legacy can push to win. He's going to do so pretty successfully right now, placing those wards. They're going for the kill of Vital once again. And
Vital
they'll get the game if they do.
And he's just going to die again. Cataclysm to seal the deal. You've got no flash, and you've got no health bar. The first Nexus turret falls. Tapoon is successful. He goes for a 1v2. How do you stop this Legacy roster? Because they're going to lead this series 2-0 in a grand final. Best of 5. It's unreal what we are witnessing on display right here, Rusty.
Can they end? I don't think they end. Oh no, Minions killed Chippies. They end because a Minion unfortunately executed Chippies. They put themselves 2-0 up. The Minions saved the game. Oh no.
We've seen it all here. We really have seen it all here. Direwolves look so good, so strong, and a few very questionable moments. And you think, where's that mental? If it's boomed, it's blown up by this stage.
I mean, there are still so many positives that you could look at for Direwolves through the early points in the game, right? Like this game, there was a good punish onto Mir after he got the gank, but he got the gank. You know, they still built a gold lead at a certain point, breaking turrets, and there was things to take away from it. But yep. Legacy, once they hit mid-game, they just seem like they are making better decisions as a team. And that is reflecting so aggressively through the results of this game because on a dime it flips to them and they just end.
That they do. And when you have situations like Minions acting as a 6th member on your roster, well, you feel pretty happy about that victory right there. The memes, I'm sure, will keep flowing in through from Legacy. But for Direwolves, they've been in a situation like this before. They've played 2 best-of-5s, complete best-of-5s to get here. Is the reverse sweep on? We'll have to wait and find out. Let's throw it back to Nick and the boys.
The reverse sweep has to be on. It's the only way that can explain what's happening here with the Direwolves, where the early game's okay, suddenly mid-game everything just falls apart and they disappear. Spawn, was this a case of see game 1 and repeat?
Like similar, to be honest. A little bit better of an early game team composition, but this is once again like a legacy composition that just requires 5 members to be on a screen. And Juves and I were having, like, in my opinion, like a pretty interesting conversation about like compositional advantage and what scaling actually means. So you can look at the right-hand side of the screen and you can say individual power levels of the team. Direwolves should outscale in a couple of roles, like at least 3, I would say, like loosely 4 maybe, if you like Jason a side lane. But what happens if these 2 teams run at each other 5v5? And I've said this so many times before, Nick, but we shouldn't kid ourselves. We play in the OPL. If you think that there's not going to be a time in the game where 25 minutes a team is going to run at you 5v5, then, like, I don't know what to say to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, an ARAM is going to happen at some point. Juves, you've played in a couple of them. And I just don't understand how the Direwolves composition deals with the legacy composition in a straight-up 5v5. Like, I honestly don't understand how you ever think you win that 5v5 team fight.
I think the only way that they win is if they land the Dream Bard ultimate to cancel the engage of Jarvan and Rumble and GP. And then that is just such a narrow win condition to the point of where I'd say it's only down to maybe 1%. And I think that, you know, we're looking at an example of the way that Direwolves want to beat you, which is skill check you in every team fight. And we're looking at Legacy just completely destroying them in when it comes to grouping as a team. And we were talking about I was talking about and Jake was getting a little bit animated. Tally for me is like playing right now like Ost Doimby, right? For those who, I'm pretty sure everyone knows Doimby. He literally won Worlds, but he won Worlds with a playstyle that was leave lane, sack minions, and help your team, whether that's top, whether that's bot. But he picked champions that facilitated a roam. And what we're seeing here with the Rumble is like Tally sacked 1 to 2 minion waves to get a kill bot lane, and sure, it's only a kill, but for the context of like the pressure it creates on the map and the pressure it creates on the game, you can never make a decision without taking his teleport or him sacking a wave to come into consideration. And then you look at Shock on the other hand, who's playing like a 10 CS per minute control mage, needs 300 CS and 6 items or 5 items to carry a game, who's not willing to sack waves and leave to help his team.
Yeah, I mean, as someone that has really grown to enjoy Direwolves games and kind of the uncertainty they have brought through this gauntlet, like, for those that think that we're just here to be Legacy fans, like, I think you're wrong. Like, Juice has run the gauntlet. He knows what it feels like to be in the situation. Like, we've run the gauntlet. I know what it feels like to be in this situation. I want someone to run the damn gauntlet and actually win the finals once, because I think it's going to be so hype. And, like, this Direwolves comp could have done it. But I think, like, with the hype comes the expectation and pressure, right? And this is a team that 0-2 down would have been like, guys, the split's over. We played one with Decoy. We played one with Cupcake. Order probably going to run over us. They turn around. Guys, we're playing the next day. Nothing to lose. But now they've had to sit on that for a week, and it looks like something has changed in the camp. Like, where are Chippy's tanks? Where are the big team fighting comps? Like, where is the Orianna, Wombo combo? Like, Jarvan's being picked away. Can we find anything else out of the jungle? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. Like, get a Lee Sin in Miru's hand or something. It's not as good, but it still fulfills a similar role within a composition. Let's throw down. Let's fight these guys. Like, why are we trying to finesse against Legacy? Like, individually, like, Topoon is the best top laner in the league. Like, if you think Tally's the best mid laner in the league, like, give that to them as well. At the moment, he's playing like it. Like, you have a look at, like, Raze, like, undoubtedly he's the better AD carry in my opinion. Like, you're going to have to do something here. Like, you're not going to win skill checks against this lineup. If that was your plan coming into the grand final, like, that's not a good plan.
So we saw, obviously you referenced the Decoy was playing. They didn't have the best game. They take him out. They put in Cupcake. Cupcake makes most of the run with them. We're now seeing they're 2 games down. Decoy is not coming in for the 3rd game. They're sticking with Cupcake. They seem to be sticking with the playstyle that is just not working. Jules, you mentioned that they're pinning their hopes on dream ults, on dream plays, as opposed to taking something that could potentially work against this Legacy team. Or is there anything that can work against this Legacy team?
I think we saw Direwolves look their best when we saw Chippies on a tank top laner that had some form of an engage. You know, he had a Poppy that was absolute 1v9, and sure, that's not your traditional, like, engaged top lane. It's not going in first, I don't think, unless it finds a flank. But he had the Malphite, I think it was picked blind, and there was really no answer for him. I'd like to see Chippies go back to a Malphite, take the jungle pressure away from top lane, because all these games we've seen from Direwolves now, there's been 2 to 3 repeat ganks from Miru, have net gained absolutely nothing. I think maybe they net gained a kill. Did you want to try him in there, Jake?
I was going to say, pick Vlad. Why are you 5th picking Jace if you want a team fight? Vlad beats Gangplank, and, like, people say Vlad isn't engaged. Well, they've obviously never played against a Spellbinder Vlad that runs at you and puts R on 5 people. Like, he damn right is engaged. He gets the action started, makes it spicy. Like, yeah, you just got to do something different here. Like, after game 1, that should have been enough sign that you're not going to lane kingdom this team. Because you are winning early game. They got first 2 dragons this game. They had control of topside. Chippy's won his lane after early freeze. Bottom lane, they took turret as well. They were 2,000 gold up, and you still lost the team fights. Like, that should be an indication that you need to pick team fighting.
And because the other thing is like, I think Direwolves have had a bit of success when pressuring bot lane, right? Like, they got a few kills early, and to be honest, when Direwolves had their gold lead, they were playing around the bot side of the map, right? I think at a certain point, they just gave up on top lane. The lead wasn't growing. The lead was quite stale. GP was laning really well. And, like, most of the skirmishes took place around bot side, and even with their, like, inferior comp at a dragon fight, they were still getting dragons. So it's like their setup is there. They just don't have the tools for that setup. So it's like, give them the tools in draft to enable, I think, where they've looked their best, which is that 5-man engage, chippies on a tank, and just roll the dice, because you've only got one dice left to roll.
Are they scared of playing aggressive? But the flip side of that is that you have to play aggressive to win, right? Like, you can't just sit back and defend against this team.
And that's what I think's happening, and that's why I said I think Spawn touched on that they've had a week to sit on that they're playing in a grand final, and it's in the back of their mind. They're like, okay, we're playing in a grand final against the best team in the league, and it starts to grow on you, like, and you just start to develop nerves because the direwolves that we're seeing, it's a lot of not pulling the trigger. There's been so many instances where I feel like Chippy's Jace could have gone in, after a shock blast, flashed on someone in lane. Shock could have sacked a couple minions to get to a skirmish and just be really aggressive. Direwolves bot lane, much of the same. Really, they're just not pulling triggers as well.
So Rusty mentioned, Spawn, Rusty mentioned at the end of that game, how basically the Legacy just keep making good decisions. How do Direwolves beat good decision making? What do you do in that scenario where you're just getting outplayed mentally by this team?
I mean, there's two things that you can do. I mean, you either have to play a composition that outscales. And what I mean by that is, I'll go back to it. Like, ease of execution, they're going to pick team fight, so pick a better team fight comp. Like, if you've got an Ornn player that has been hiding or something like that, if you've got a set player and you can somehow manage to grab that, if you can play like Bard plus tank jungler, like Bard Sejuani, like, just get yourself a team fight composition and just do nothing. Because honestly, I think there are two ways you play this game. If you do nothing and they're going to do nothing, you'll scale alongside them, right? And that if you have like Braum Sejuani, you're probably going to be in a good spot in team fights as well. So you have that option always available to you. I don't think that's how Direwolves play. So the other side of it is you do what we said. You pick mid-game team fighting. You can have a Jace if you have something else to get the action started. If Miru doesn't play that, you need to play something like a Malphite that isn't going to be the best 6-item, tank in the game, but is going to be able to make the game spicy enough for them to take over in the mid-game.
And the other thing that I found about versing teams that kind of made good decisions is if you just create a chaotic early game, not every decision.
Build a career on it.
Yeah. If you create a chaotic environment and you have, say, you have a few champs, like maybe your jungler's real early game and you have prio in certain lanes, and you force a chaotic early game, you then put pressure on the good decision-making team to make a lot of decisions, and they're not going to always be the correct ones. So I think, I
was going to say, Juves has hit the nail on the head, because, we played that Senna Maokai comp, and it's like, if you get one item, you just fight every fight after that. And it's not that you're going to win every fight, it's just that because you've got such a safe comp that scales well, if you win half the fights, you get to where you want to be anyway. Yeah. So, Juves is right. You can just keep throwing the rock against the wall, and eventually something will start to get through.
So, Spawn, you are the coach of Direwolves. This is obviously potentially the last game that they play this split. What do you do? What crazy strat do you pull out? What pick do you pull out? What do you give them? What tool do you provide to be able to take out Legacy to win the first game of this reverse sweep?
On blue side, I ban probably Ornn, Jarvan, and probably
Galio,
Trundle.
Rumble.
I'd ban Trundle, right? And then I would pick Braum, Sejuani, and triple team fight comps for my 3 carries. I would make Miru play utility. He's not having a good series. I think that's what he needs.
Juves?
Yeah, much of the same, really. I would basically just try and take the team fight tools away from Legacy, put them on ourselves if I'm Direwolves, and really just look to facilitate the bot lane. I think Vital's key to victory here, so a lot of stuff that can dive bot lane and dive bot lane at level 6.
I'd also pick Shock Orianna.
Yep.
And just force a bunch of decisions. Just overwhelm them with decisions. It's like it's like how you beat a robot with a logic problem. This is what we need to do against Legacy, because they are robotic in how good they are. Other people who are good. The winners we've had so far from Neo Surf, the competition we're running head to at OPL. This could be the last time you could enter this split. Guess the gold, the total gold of all players playing in Game 3 of this grand final. The person who gets it closest wins themselves a legendary skin and a bunch of chests and keys. We've got runners-up. We've got a third game coming your way. Is it the end, or is it the beginning of the reverse sweep we all want to see, or at least a 5 games? Let's find out with Legacy versus Direwolves, Game 3.